A very good morning to our viewers in the United States and all around the world. It's Tuesday, June 22nd, and a key vote today on voting rights in America. Today, the Senate votes on advancing the For the People Act. Democrats see it as a test of their unity. Republicans as well, as they will obstruct this piece of the Biden agenda. At stake, the integrity of our elections and American democracy. President Biden meeting privately Monday with two moderate Democratic senators who can stand in the way of his legislative goals, West Virginia's Joe Manchin and Arizona's Kyrsten Sinema. Both support keeping Senate filibuster rules in place. Sinema writing a new op-ed in the Washington Post saying, if we eliminate the Senate's 60-vote threshold, we will lose much more than we gain.
Former President Barack Obama with some stark comments about all this, invoking the Capitol insurrection to advocate for the passage of the voting rights bill.
The violence that occurred in the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, just a few months ago, should remind us that we can't take our democracy for granted. Around the world, we've seen once vibrant democracies go into reverse, locking in power for a small group of powerful autocrats and business interests, and locking out of the political process dissidents and protesters and opposition parties and the voices of ordinary people. It is happening in other places around the world, and these impulses have crept into the United States. We are not immune from some of these efforts to weaken our democracy.
Joining us now, Peter Beinart, CNN political commentator and author of the Beinart Notebook on Substack. Look, Peter, we know how this will turn out today. This will not pass the U.S. Senate. It may get 50 votes. It may achieve 100% Democratic unity, which is not nothing, but it won't pass. And what former President Barack Obama was talking about there is that this somehow fits the pattern of the U.S. as a backsliding democracy. How does it fit that model?
First of all, it's important to remember that the United States is in many ways, as a multiracial democracy, we're very young. It's really only been about 50 years that most black Americans have had the right to vote. And what we're seeing, I think, fundamentally, is that the United States is becoming demographically less of a white and Christian nation. The Republican Party is using and emphasizing those anti-democratic elements of our political system, strengthening them by making voting harder, for instance, in state after state, in order to maintain their political control. That's what Barack Obama is worried about.
So what we see is Republicans saying this is a federal power grab, that the federal government shouldn't be this involved in elections. But what that does allow is the Republican efforts in states that we're seeing happening to proliferate. And what we're seeing in the states is clearly anti-democratic. What do you see in terms of this being reversed? Is this something that can be reversed?
It's remarkable, because this was exactly the argument that segregationists made in the 1960s. The federal government shouldn't be taking control of states' rights, but in fact, the federal government had to step in because states, particularly in the South, were not allowing blacks to vote. It hasn't gotten quite that bad again, but what we're seeing is state after state making it harder, especially for people of color, to vote. And the problem is that the filibuster, which was also ironically used to protect segregation, is now being used by Republicans this time to prevent a federal law that would stop the states from making it harder to vote.
We have to make clear that Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, two Democrats, are not going to overturn the filibuster. All they do is keep telling us that they won't do it. So that is what it is, at least today and for now. In terms of where the U.S. fits in a global pattern here, as you look around the world, there are one-time democracies that are in trouble.
Absolutely. And I think you see two patterns. First of all, leaders undermining the rule of law to protect their corruption. Again, something we've seen a little bit of in the Trump era in the United States. And the second is leaders undermining equality under the law because they have a vision of a country in which one religious or ethnic or racial or gender group is supreme over everyone else. We're seeing that in country after country, unfortunately.
Which countries in particular do you have your eye on as you watch this reversal?
Look at India, for instance, which was long called the world's largest democracy. It's been downgraded now by Freedom House from what they call free to partly free. It was created to be a secular country, but under Narendra Modi, it's increasingly being made into a country where Muslims are second-class citizens and where the government is using colonial-era laws to crack down on opposition leaders, forced Amnesty International out of the country.
Wow, that's very telling, isn't it?
Peter Beinart, great to have you this morning. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.